We've just completed Parshas Bahar. This week is Parshas Bechukosai. This is the week where America and the rest of Chutz La'aretz catches up to us in advance of Shavuos. And that's an interesting question in its own right. Why is it that since the chiluk, the break between Chutz La'aretz and Eretz Yisrael began when? When did we go ahead of Parsha?
When Shabbos came, then they had the second day of a Yom Tov, and we had
That's right. Galus had a Shemini Shel Pesach, an Achron Shel Pesach, and we went right ahead and continued with the laning. So why didn't they make it up the following week? Why is the Psak Halacha that we always coordinate before Parshas Bamidbar, which is always the Parsha prior to what? Shavuos. And there's so many opportunities to catch up because there are many double Parshios and so on, Achamos Kedoshim, etc. So I believe perhaps one of the answers is to demonstrate that Klal Yisrael unifies around Matan Torah.
Nice.
In other words, Ki ish echad b'lev echad, in order to be merames and to emphasize the idea that Klal Yisrael has to organize itself and come to terms with one another. Ki ish echad b'lev echad, as it says, Vayachanu neged ahar, they camped over there, and that camping was without controversy. So, in that vein, it's very interesting. Vayichan. There was chen, there was peace, there was shechina. Vayichan Yisrael, right? Ki ish echad b'lev echad. Now, that kernel of a thought is a very, very, very important undercurrent that's going on in all the parshos that precede Matan Torah and in Shavuos itself. So this is really part 2 of a shiur that we started last week about unlocking the mysteries of the Sfira period leading up to Shavuos of Lag Baomer. We spoke a little bit last week about Lag Baomer, Shim Baruchai, and the idea of Geshamim, which has been an ongoing theme here. We are here, and it is, right? Today, we are almost 40 days into the Omer, right? With the Shavuos is going to be really around the corner. And how could it be that the rains are still falling? And I woke up this morning, as many of you did, to thunder. Now, I never know whether it's thunder or an Israeli Air Force plane. That's the interesting thing about being in Israel. And it's a suffix bracha, so I made the bracha without Hashem's name because I didn't know. Suffix brachos lahakel. And then kept hearing, I said, oh, really? It was indeed. Rolling thunder. Rolling thunder. What's going on? And we spoke last couple weeks ago, and I'll reiterate that point, that al pi halacha, the psak halacha is, following the Yerushalmi, that rains in ER and beyond ER are a bracha, as opposed to what you might think in the looking Gemara Tainus, which says clearly that if rain appears in ER, we have already stopped even asking for rain. The words Tain, Tal, Umator have already terminated. When did they terminate? They terminated with Pesach. So, and not even Achron Shel Pesach, with the onset of Pesach, right? So, the question really is, and the Gemara says, no, it's not a bracha. And there's, in the Gemara Tainus, Davav, there's thoughts that maybe, it says in the Torah, Yorah and Malkosh. There are 2 types of rain. There's an early rain called Yorah, and a later rain called Malkosh. The Gemara explains why they have those names. Yorah, because it penetrates the ground and gives the seeds enough water to begin their growth. And Malkosh is a rain which fills it up, which makes the plant reach its hashlama, which reaches its full maturity. So you need both rains. We said, well, which rains are considered Yorah, beginning rains, and which rains are considered ending rains? So Yorah is generally associated with Mar Cheshvan, which is right after Tishrei, why we give the people 2 weeks to get home after Sukkot, right? A week to get home after Sukkot at least. So, okay. And then the month of Nisan is the deadline for Malkosh. So what's going on? So the Gemara does not say anything in the Bavli, but the Yerushalmi says that it's only a klala if there has been no rain at all since Rosh Hashanah. But since rains have appeared, but they have just not been, how shall I say, complete, we did insert the Anenu, correct? We did. All the Rabbanim and all the Gedolim asked us to daven for rain this year. And then what happened afterwards? It rained. And I think I mentioned to you that there was the Psak Halacha was ridiculed by a writer in Haaretz. He said, how ridiculous to pray for rain. And sure enough, of course, it rained. And it's keeping raining. And it's raining. And it's raining. And it's raining. And even after we have stopped, it's continuing to rain. Because he doesn't believe in Hashem, and he doesn't believe. He's a kofar. He's a kofar beikar.
Isn't that wonderful?
He doesn't believe in Hashgacha Pratis. All right, we're going to get to that specific problem in a minute. But the rains are considered a bracha, kol zman, that we need to further the growth and to sustain the fruits, or whatever has begun growing needs to be sustained. And if it needs to be sustained through the summer months, so be it. I have little lemons bursting out on my tree, on my lemon tree, which I harvested on Tu B'Shvat. And now we've already harvested before Pesach. We took a batch down, and Meiser I just took another batch down, and I see small ones are growing. They need rain. If there'll be a drought, it will not grow properly. So these rains are definitively Gishmei Bracha, and as some of the you suggested, they appeared at strange times, like right at Lag Baomer, of all times, to have a rainy Lag Baomers in Chutz La'aretz are not a big chiddush. You know, they canceled the parks, you know, and they're going out to the parks, right? But here in Israel, a rainy Lag Baomer, you haven't heard of. And there was much concern about fire safety, which is accentuated by the horrible tragedy of the 10 lost children who were not properly protected from the rains, the kafikim b'negev, which were terrifying. And respecting the powers and forces of Hashem's nature behooved us, because that's called Gvuras Geshamim. Hashem is a Gibor, Ata Gibor. All right, so just to reiterate that point, we're in a period of bracha. Hashem's protecting. Some suggest, as you said, to rain on the fire balloons, and the fire balloons that they're sending across from Gaza, which is like, you know, it's actually reminiscent of what happened to the Yidden was coming out of Mitzrayim, where the Egyptians were firing at them blistaros, you know, fiery missiles, and the Anani HaKavod would capture them and save them. So we have to really hope that Hashem Shechina will capture these. It shouldn't be able to cause damage. Okay, so now let's go to our recent Parsha, Bechukosai, last week and going into this week. There is a remarkable chidush that emerges from both of these parshios. And it's centered around the theme which is introduced in Parshas Bahar, but in a hidden fashion goes much deeper in Parshas Bechukosai, as we'll see. First of all, what mitzvah are we talking about at the onset of the parsha? Shemitah. And the Orach Chaim HaKadosh asks, you know, why is there an inyan of accentuating Shemitah, in particular, all right, as the source of all mitzvos? Meaning, the Rashi tells us that just like Mayin Shemitah Har Sinai, why is this Mishnah? Why is this? It says Bahar Sinai. Bahar, that's the name of the parsha. But everything was on Har Sinai. Everything was on Har Sinai. So why single out Shemitah? So Shemitah is singled out as all the pratim evolve where it said at Sinai, so to every mitzvah. But it comes out that Shemitah is what I call an archetypal mitzvah. It's an archetypal mitzvah. It's a mitzvah that sets a framework for a lot of other mitzvahs. So why is that? What's the concept? So let's start like this. There's so much to say here. I can't even begin. Okay. The principle is, and it's always linked to Talmud Torah, correct? It's always linked to Talmud Torah. Behar Sinai. Think about it. Shemitah is connected to what event? Matan Torah. Because Har Sinai was the place of Matan Torah. It's what we focus on Shavuos. So there's a secondary question here. Question number one, why do Chazal choose Shemitah as the archetypal mitzvah to teach us that on Har Sinai all the details of the mitzvahs were given on this mitzvah and for all mitzvahs? Pick another mitzvah. Pick Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Who cares? Pick something maybe more basisi. One of the Aseret Dibros, perhaps. But Shemitah? Shemitah seems to be a mitzvah which is contingent on a lot of variables. Klal Yisrael has to be in Eretz Yisrael. And there has to be a Beis Din and a Yovel system. And, that in order for this to be done properly, we have to be in Eretz Yisrael. We have to have control over the land of Eretz Yisrael. Not a simple thing. Exactly. So we have, it seems to be a mitzvah that's like an end game mitzvah. It's a mitzvah that happens when everything else is going right. We can talk about Shemitah and Yovel. So why make that the typical mitzvah? Okay. And the second thing is, why is it particularly linked, Shemitah, to Talmud Torah? To Talmud Torah. Why? So in order to understand this a little better, I'm going to go into a question about Shavuos itself. Which biblical personality, obviously Moshe Rabbeinu, but beyond Moshe Rabbeinu, which biblical personality or personalities are most associated with David and Rus? Okay. And Rus represents the Gioret Tzedek, who accepts Torah mitzvos, right? And David HaMelech represents what? Malchus. He is the Melech Yisrael. Okay. Now, we know that in the 7 weeks of Shavuos, which of Sfiras Omer, of this time period, what is the last day prior to Shavuos? You know how you say every week corresponds to one other of the midos, right? You know how that little tefillah that you say after Sfiras Omer? I'm preparing, for example, Chesed Shebe Chesed, right? Or Lag Baomer is which one? Hod Sheba Hod. Hod Sheba Hod, which is reference to Aaron HaKohen, is associated with the midah of Aaron HaKohen, right? As we know. The first week is Chesed associated with Avram Avinu. Second week is Gvura associated with Yitzchak. Third week is Tiferes associated with Yaacov. Fourth week, Netzach associated with Moshe. Fifth week, Hod. And therefore the fifth day of the fifth week, Hod Sheba Hod, the ultimate day of Aaron HaKohen, is Lag BaOmer. Okay? But there are 2 other days in which midos reach their pinnacle and they're associated with people. For example, Malchus Shebe Malchus. Malchus Shebe Malchus is what ushers us into Shavuos. Right? So who's that? David HaMelech. It's not David HaMelech, it's David HaMelech Shebe David HaMelech. So we see clearly that there's an association between David's Malchus and Matan Torah. Why? Why him more than anybody else? Maybe Moshe, somebody else. Why did the system play itself out at the peak of the peak? The ultimate preparation, the final step before Matan Torah is Malchus, and the Malchus of the Malchus.
Did it do that? The Malach here in this world represents a credibility there. So, we go to the Torah from Hashem.
Okay, so Kabbalah's all Malchus Shamayim. The Melech of this world's job is to channel or facilitate the kiyum of Torah on its highest level, which includes providing a couple of necessary preconditions, which are what? In order for to have the full Malchus, how is the full Malchus mitbateh? What's contained in that Malchus Shebe Malchus? Well, first and foremost, Torah. What is the association between a Melech and a Torah? What mitzvah does the Melech have? He has to write 2 Sifrei Torah. He has to have one on his arm, which he used to wear like Lahavdil, Jimmy Olsen's wristwatch. What? Hashem, we're in trouble. Got to go to Milchama.
Superman, wasn't it?
Right. No, Jimmy Olsen's wristwatch, yeah. Or Dick Tracy, Lahavdil, yeah. But he didn't have anybody helping him. So the Melech has a Sefer Torah bound to his arm, meaning anything that he does, every action that he does must be considered. The Mishnah in Sanhedrin says, Yotzei l'milcha, it says, V'kara bo kol yemei chayav. He has to reference the Torah every day of his life. Every day of his Malchut, the Torah is the blueprint from which he designs and implements his Malchus. Yotzei l'milchama, Yimotzia imo, says the Mishnah. He takes it to war. I mean, take it out to war. What could happen in war? It gets dirty. It could get blood on it. It could get lost. It could get captured. Chas v'shalom. No. Wear the Torah on your wrist for war. Nichnas, you're coming back from war. So you say, look, I needed the Torah because I was in a crisis, but now that the battle is over, let's take a break, let's relax. No. You have to know not only how to use the Torah to win the war by implementing emunah and tefillah and shmiras habris and kiyum mitzvos, that's what's going to win you the war. But when you come back with all the spoils, you got to know how to behave. You got to know how to divide it, al-pi Torah. We have very extensive details in the Torah about Milchemes Midyan, how every pruta was accounted for, every animal, every shekel was accounted for, because we have to have perfect transparency and integrity around money, which is the job of the melech. Hence, a melech has two names. His name associates with two other words. Melech is lechem and milchama. What is milchama? You're fighting to establish your wealth, or what we call a commonwealth. Right? If you think about it, nations in the world, if they are proper nations, are self-sustaining. They have all the resources that they need to live and provide for their citizens. They have enough money. A starving country is really not much of a country. Right? A country that can't defend its boundaries is not a country. It's a joke. But a serious country is defined as specific borders. It can defend itself in milchama, and it can provide wealth. That's what malchus means. Two things. You provide for your people lechem, and you repel the enemies in milchama. That's the job of a melech. Now, in terms of a Jewish melech, we know the specific mitzvos that a melech have include wearing the Sefer Torah. What else does he have? He has a number of mitzvos. Number one, lo yarbe lo nashim. He cannot have too many wives. The Mishnah says, or too many horses. How many wives can he have? 18 wives. Chai. Yes, the whole Sefer Torah. Well, yeah.
Did he go to sleep?
It says when he ate, when he sat down, kenegdo, he placed it opposite him. So he didn't sleep with the Torah on him, but he slept with the Torah next to him, and the minute he got up, he put it on. He washed yadayim, I guess. And so he can't have too many wives. Why? Because his lave, penya sieno libo, because a wife has great influence on her husband. They discuss things in private. She has access to him where nobody else does. And she can be greatly influencing his heart. And if his heart turns away from Hashem, chas v'shalom, we've lost our malchus. 18 is quite a bit. Yeah, but the Mishnah says, afilu echad v'hi mesias libo al yisa'ena. Even if it's one wife, but she has so much influence on him that she may be able to deter him from his agenda, from his responsibilities to administer Torah with his whole heart. Then you got a problem, because she's interfering with the malchus. She's not adding to the malchus. She's not supporting the malchus. She's destroying the malchus.
Didn't she keep David from coming to open up Beis Hamikdash? Not open.
Shlomo, yeah. Shlomo married Paro Necho's daughter, which is the reason why we are still around without a Beis Hamikdash, because on that night, Shlomo Melech was busy with his wedding night. He was a chassan. And, they had, all the good singers at the wedding, because after all, David HaMelech was his father, It couldn't be that he didn't have a big band. You know what I'm saying? Well,
She painted the ceiling like stars and moon, so he thought it was still nice.
So what is that point? The point is she deterred him from his path. It's an amazing thing that people don't realize what he did for her. He built her the most luxury Midtown Manhattan Lahavdil apartments in the walls of Yerushalayim. That's like the east side, the Upper East Side. Built her this massive condominium just for her. It was worth, who knows, infinite amount of money. So you know what? She was influential. The other mitzvah is not too many horses. Why? Why horse? What's wrong with a horse? They'll go down to Mitzrayim, but also horses were the tank of the day. Even in our modern era, crowd control, till today.
Crowd control.
We can't even control the dog. They bring horses and they line them up, and that's going to take care of the crowd. It's a formidable, powerful weapon. And it originated in Mitzrayim. They were the first ones, Sus Paro. They originated the idea of the horse as a military weapon until today. So therefore, don't go after this shita of military power. What do we say? Lo, how does the pasuk go? Eile berechev, ve'ele besusim, va'anachnu, b'shem Hashem naskir. A Jewish king has to remember, b'shem Hashem naskir. Look at the Torah. That is your success, not the horses. And then the third thing is kesef v'zav lo yar b'lo ma'od. Cannot have too much wealth. Again, because then he's going to. He had to be wealthy, but his wealth was purposeful. The Mishnah says to cover the budget, and the main item on the budget is, of course, what's the big ticket item in every country's budget? What's the number one item? The military. So you have to be able to pay your soldiers. Aspamia. If you cannot make payroll with the army, you do not have an army. If you don't have an army, you do not have milchama. If you don't have milchama, you don't have lechem. There's no melech. There's no need for a melech. Lechem and milchama. Those are the two jobs of any king. But for us, there is also that additional dimension of the malchus shamayim, which means channel your wealth for purposeful things. Your relationships have to be altruistic, al pi Torah, and not for personal gain. And you also have to keep the Torah as a constant reference for every single thing you do. Every single thing. A remarkable thing. Such a king is almost, you don't hear of such kings. Okay, that's Malchus Yisrael. So, another very important connection between David HaMelech and Shavuos also has to do with Torah. What's the famous story about the death of David HaMelech?
Learning Torah so that the Malachim others couldn't stop taking.
He was being omel b'Torah. He was non-stop learning. The minute he stops learning, what happens? The Malchus falls. Literally, what happened? It says the Malach HaMaves made a huge sound. He clapped one of the trees. David HaMelech was startled. He takes a stop for a second. And the next thing you know, he's tumbling down the steps of his own palace, dead. So much so that Shlomo HaMelech had to figure out how to protect the body from the sun, because it was muktzah, and it was a yom tov. So he commanded the birds to circle so that the David HaMelech's body would not decompose because of the heat.
I thought they put lechem on him. So
And also, move him. Yeah, whatever the problem was, they had to deal with the problem of the fallen Sukas David ha-Naphalis. Remember, we describe David as falling, because when a kingdom, when a nation fails, it falls. The rise and fall of the Roman Empire, right? It falls. Okay, why David's association to Limud HaTorah Ba'amelis? Okay, so let's go a little deeper. Now let's really know what's going on over here. Parsha's Bechukosai starts with an unusual pshat. Okay? The pshat that Chazal give, Ve'im Bechukosai Seilechu, right? Says the Balaturim, and Rashi, echoing Rashi, Amelim Divrei Torah. The gematria of Im Bechukosai Seilechu means deep Torah learning. Hard work in Torah, not peripheral, but hard work. What does that mean, hard work? We're going to see in a moment. And therefore, whatever it says in Parshas Bechukosai, and this is Pshat and Rashi based on Torah's Kohanim, and this is Torah's Emes according to Chazal. So let's get this straight. The curses and the blessings of Bechukosai are not to be viewed outside the context of limud haTorah ba'amelus, because that's what our Chazal teach. Okay? You want to read it another way? Fine, but that's not what Chazal say. Torah's Kohanim, quoted by Rashi, quoted by all the Meforshim. So there's something about the Malchus which requires Amelus b'Torah. So for those who would like to separate Malchus and Torah and say, well, when it comes to the governmental issues, I don't have to consult my rabbis, and even the frum ones among the, our quote-unquote leaders. That this is separate. This has nothing to do with that. It's among us. There are some parties that say we have to discuss it with our rabbanim, and then we're going to get back to you with an answer. Halavai, it should be, implemented in a way which is really al pi ratzon chachamim. At least that's the concept. There is such at least it's a concept. But the Malchus Yisrael is dependent on Amelus b'Torah. If there is no Amelus b'Torah, there is no Malchus. That is a remarkable message, because you would think, no, we could have a secular state. We could have a state that just exists. Lechem milchama. And we did it there were many times in the history of Malachim that we did have such kings. Which king was extremely successful in war? Achav. Of course, what does he run into a problem with?
Nothing.
Parnasa. What stops for him?
No rain.
The Gishmei Bracha. Notice. Why? He was a great king. He did all the Milcham. Answer is, if you're not going to be connected to Torah, the system will not operate. Ultimately, it will fail. In May, by the way, it says that many of the kings, and if you look in Perek Chelek, which is the in Sanhedrin, Kol Yisrael Yishem Chelek Haba, that's a Mishnayos in Sanhedrin, and there's a beautiful, beautiful Gemara, about 30 pages worth of Agadatas, all about issues of Tchias HaMesim and Emunah, and goes through all the kings, because there's 3 kings don't have Chelek and Olam Haba, Achav being one of them, Yerovim ben Nevat, and then of course there's a debate about Menashe, who was a grand, in the lineage of David HaMelech, who does do tshuva in the end, and it's a machlokas whether he has Olam Haba or not. It's a machlokas. But then it goes through each of the kings and says, hey, this guy was a big Russia, how come he has Olam Haba? And many of the answers are, one by one, because they did chesed. Even Izevel, the wicked wife of Achav, who steered him in the complete direction of Avodah Zarah and the destruction of everything holy. She was Zocha. Right. Why? Because she was Mesameach Chasam Bekala. So she had a merit that she did kindness with other Jews. Notice the precondition of Matan Torah is always Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Ahar. Do chesed with another Jew. I don't even want to talk to you about Torah until you have that down pat. So there were many kings where Hashem says, okay, they got the idea of the chesed, so let's see if we can be patient enough for them to kick in with the Torah. Maybe they'll do tshuva. Hashem will wait and wait and wait, because at least they're in a position to move forward with chesed and the Torah, with the shalom and the emes. By the way, according to the Bechukosai, and that's the Abir Yaacov, he says the 6th week of the Omer is the week of Yesod, and that represents emes. Shalom. And then the last week, which is Malchus, is emes. Emes and Shalom come together. That's the magic formula. You take Shalom and you add emes, and you got the whole picture. Now, normally Shalom and emes are competing with each other, right? I'll give you an example. Shalom bayis. Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. How much shalom bayis you're going to have?
Well, even Hashem sort of, not lied, but so to speak, without
He omitted where?
Sorry, he didn't. Sorry said, I'm old and my husband is old. Hashem didn't tell Abraham that he said that he was old. There's no man like you here.
That's right.
Same as them.
And it's a pasuk in the Torah. It says, she said, Va'adoni zokein. My husband's even if I'm going to have a baby, he's going to have a baby? Oh, yeah, right. He can sustain a baby. He can raise a baby at this age. And then when the Torah says that Hashem reported that complaint to Avram, it says va'ani zakanti, that she put it on herself. So Rashi says she shina mipnei hashalom. The whole truth wasn't divulged because that's not an important fact. What is important? Apparently, it was important enough that it be discussed. Because my thought is because emunah is a basic necessity in every marriage. A marriage has to be based on emes. And if there is a lack of emunah, that means there's a lack of emes. We always have to worry about both shalom and emes. We can bend the shalom because we need emes. We can bend the emes because we need shalom. But you can never do without both. So, now, so if that's the case, we see in this week's Parsha a completely new concept, which is Malchus is dependent on Amelus B'Torah. And we see it consistent in the themes we've been showing, right? Okay. So how far does this go? There's an incredible Rashi in Pasuk Tesvav. I need a regular Chumash, please. Here we go. So here we are in Parsha's Bahar. Excuse me, Bechukosai. In Bechukosai, this is usually together. Okay, so here we have in Pasuk. Okay, Bi'im Bechukosai Timasu. If you choose not to do my chukos, Rashi says, that would be a reference to what? Bittul Torah, or Moes Ba'acherim Ha'osim. You're going to say to people, this is not our value. We don't need you to be doing, we don't need you to be learning. We don't need you to be learning or doing mitzvos. And Mishpatai Tigal Nafshechem, Soneh Chachamim. He's hating the Torah because he's hating the Chachamim that are the masters of Torah and the teachers of Torah. Labilti Asos, Rashi says, you're stopping people, Monei Asacher Me'asos, you're preventing people from doing Torah mitzvos. As Kol Mitzvosai, Kofer Shalot Tzivisim, he says, mitzvos were not commanded. All the things that a non-believing government would say. It's very nice, Judaism, very nice mitzvos, but it's not what our mamshala is based on, nor do we promote it necessarily as a value. Okay? And lahafrechem es brisi, kof is that you're denying the bris, kofer be'ikar. Says Rashi a powerful thing. Hare sheva averos. We're mentioning here 7 types of sins. Okay, let's get them down because it's really, really important. Number 1, lo lamad. The first mistake is not a melus b'Torah. The breakdown is when there's no learning. No consistent learning. And what's the point of consistent learning? Besides the mitzvah, which is the greatest, it says,